Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here. So I've had a look through all the player prices since the game has launched. It's launched for about 24 to 36 hours already. So I've had a good look at all the player prices and I've picked out 10 underpriced FPL assets that I think you guys must consider and even buy for your Game Week 1 teams. So hopefully you guys find this video useful, and if you do, please do drop a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. I'm also happy to announce that we will be partnering Fantasy Football Hub for another season. So all the data from today's video is taken from Fantasy Football Hub. There's loads of useful tools there, player comparisons, data, fixture tickers, etc. So all these useful things, as well as the My Team tool where AI will give you a rating of your team as well. So if you are interested in all of that, they are running a 50% promotion right now, so you can check the link in the description to find out more. Right, so let's jump straight into this video. And the first player I want to talk about is Vitaly Mykolenko. So he is priced at 4.5 million. The current ownership is pretty low at 7.5%. So I do think that he could be a very good differential for you guys to have, considering how cheap he is as well. So when the player prices were being revealed, Mykolenko was one of those players that was released slightly earlier before the game when they were kind of dropping player prices. And when he came in at 4.5, I thought, alright, that's pretty okay. But when the game was released and I look at player prices for Tarkowski, I look for Pickford, they're all 5 million. He should be at least 5 million, at least the same price as those two other assets, because I think he's fairly nailed. I mean, he's had 28 appearances out of 38 game weeks last season, missed a couple of games, some through injury as well. But if not, I think he's played majority of the games. I do see him being the first choice left back for Everton as well. So I think in terms of why I think he's underpriced, I think not only does he provide the clean sheet chances, because obviously as a defender you get clean sheet points, and in terms of Everton's defense, a fun fact is also that Everton actually are joint second with Man City for clean sheets last season. So they racked up 13 clean sheets. And that's only on par with Man City, and it's only second to Arsenal, who kept an incredible 18 clean sheets last season. So Everton are actually the second best defense in the league if you think about it from that perspective. I think under Sean Dyche, they have done pretty well. So kudos to him on that department. And clean sheets, I do think would be pretty good for Everton's prospects. I mean, Brighton at home in Game Week 1. Tottenham away is not an easy fixture by any means, but there's Bournemouth at home as well. Villa away, also not an easy fixture, but then there's Leicester as well in Game Week 5. So I think a bunch of mixed fixtures, but with a player like Mykolenko, who's only at 4.5 million, he's not a player you have to play every single game week. He's a player you can rotate in and out of your squad. So I do like him as an option. And also, if you look at the heat map right beside me, you can see how attacking he is, and that's kind of another reason why I feel he's very underpriced, because he presents quite a decent attacking threat as a defender. He bombs all the way down the left flank, and he did pick up quite a number of goals towards the end of last season. Both of his goals were towards the end of last season, and he has picked up an assist as well. He's taken 26 shots over the 28 appearances that he's played last season, so basically almost a shot every game, and 5 on target as well. So I do think in general his numbers are pretty decent for from an attacking perspective. And then clean sheets wise, I also do like Everton as a defensive outlook. So I think in general, Vitaly Mykolenko at 4.5 million, he is an asset that we do have to consider, and I think he's very likely in my Game Week 1 draft as well for the time being. So there we go with our first player. Let's take a look at the second player. So the next player I want to talk about that I think is severely underpriced this season is Eberechi Eze, coming in at 7 million this season. His ownership is currently at 33.7%, so it seems as if a lot of people have already picked up on this and think that he's good value for that 7 million, and I tend to agree with that as well. There's a lot of things to like about Eberechi Eze. He is nailed for 90 minutes. He's kind of the talisman for Crystal Palace. He's on penalties, and a lot of things flow through Eze, as we saw last season when he came back from injury towards the second half of the season, and together with Olise as well and Mateta all picking up form. under Oliver Glasner as well, I think Crystal Palace look like a really solid team to go for. And at 7 million for the talisman who's on penalties, I think it is a bit of a steal that I think I can't look past Eberechi Eze. Now another thing is like who else can you go for from Crystal Palace? I look at players like Jordan Ayew. I don't think you would go there. I look at players like Olise obviously has left, and we'll talk a bit about the impact of Olise leaving soon. But for Mateta, he's come in at 7.5 million. I think that's slightly too expensive when I look at the forward options, because being classed as a midfielder, Eberechi Eze's competitors are pretty much Anthony Gordon at 7.5 or Bowen at 7.5. For 5 million cheaper, for 0.5 million cheaper, I'm getting Eberechi Eze, who's on penalties and equally nailed for 90 minutes as compared to Gordon and Bowen. So I think he's a bit of a steal. And again, going on to Mateta at 7.5 million, if I just add a 0.5 to that, so 8 million would get me someone like Havertz from Arsenal, who's much better than Eze in terms of consistency for FPL returns. And also, when I add another 0.5 to that, I get Isak, right? So 1 million up from Mateta, I get Isak. And if it goes on from there, I just don't think that Mateta is someone that kind of justifies the 7.5 million price tag. But for Eze, again, 7.0 million, I think is really quite a steal. And you see how involved he is in terms of Crystal Palace's play. A lot of his touches from the heat map here you see is all towards the left side of the field, but that's generally where he operates. Takes loads of shots as well. He's taken 83 shots in 27 appearances, so that's, you do the math, it's at least 3 shots a game. And pretty much I think this season, with the changes to the bonus point system, shots on target would gain the player, whoever it is, whether it's a midfielder or a forward, it would gain the player 2 extra BPS, so bonus points system. And basically what that means is that he's more likely to get bonus points because of the style of play that he possesses. And not to forget as well, fouls. So Eze is someone that also tends to be fouled quite a lot. His style of play, he holds the ball quite often, and because of that, he kind of gets away from players and they foul him. So plus 1 extra BPS for him there for fouls 1. So in general, I think on top of the bonus points and on top of a lot of things like with Eberechi Eze and what he offers, everything kind of comes together at this 7.0 million price tag, and he makes it very, very convincing, right, for me to go for him. And that's why he's actually currently in my Game Week 1 draft as well. So there we go. Let me know what you think about Eberechi Eze. Is he in your squad? 1 out of 3 FPL managers already have him in, so if you don't, I'm keen to know why as well. But if not, well, just before we move on to the next player, I do want to talk a bit about the impact of Olise leaving. So I think there definitely is some downside to Olise leaving, because I think Eze is much better with Olise there. But is the decline as a result of that going to be so great that I shouldn't go for Eze at all at this price point? I don't think so, right? Because I do think, like, overall, when I look at the team for Crystal Palace, they've got really good team balance. They've got a strong defense in Joachim Andersen and Mark Guehi at the back. They've got great midfielders in Adam Wharton in the midfield. There's also good attacking outlets for Eze to play around with up front. There's Mateta, of course. There's also Jordan Ayew, who's always been good for the Crystal Palace side as well. So in general, I don't think the decline for Crystal Palace would be so great with Olise leaving that it makes Eze that much of a worse asset. And at the end of the day, he's only 7 million. He's not too expensive. So I really do think like Eze has been underpriced by FPL this season, and I think we should go for him. So the next player that I think is severely underpriced this season is Christopher Nkunku. Now, he was priced at 7.5 million last season, but currently priced at 6.5 million. And that is also a whole 4 million cheaper than Cole Palmer, who obviously is on penalties and also nailed for 90 minutes. But I do imagine that Nkunku will start to come into form this season. Now, he was tipped for great things when he just came from the Bundesliga last season. A lot of people were saying he was going to explode into the Premier League. As a Chelsea fan myself, I had very high expectations for him as well. I actually felt like we could do great things. But the thing is, obviously he got injured and only managed 11 appearances last season. But even so, right? I do think like this is the time for Nkunku to shine. Maybe a bit of a bias or maybe some hope that I have for Nkunku. But in general, I know what he's capable of. And I think that's a lot of what the 13.4% of FPL managers who have gone for him are operating on. Because if you look at the stats last season, you're not going to get convincing numbers. He's picked up 3 goals last season. His shots on target and shots taken are also not very, very high. But in general, those numbers are only because he was coming back from injury. He did not really have a full campaign that we wanted him to have. And now in 24-25 season, this is when we are going to see Nkunku hopefully get more minutes, right? Under a new manager as well, you never know. Things could change for a player, and you know, who knows, Nkunku could come into form as well. So I think this is a player that you can't really back up with data this season, but just simply based on what we know he can do. And also coming in at 6.5 million, if you do expect that Chelsea would do well next season, then I think if you can't afford Cole Palmer at 10.5, I don't think Nkunku is that much of a downgrade as compared to Cole Palmer. I mean, of course, Cole Palmer is great. If we have loads of money, we can always go for him. But the 4 million cost saving here for Nkunku is just very, very enticing. I think keeping him at 7.5 million was probably what FPL should have done. But they priced him at 6.5 and just made him so attractive to go for. And in terms of fixtures as well, I do think like Chelsea, one of the teams with the better run of fixtures for the first 5 game weeks at least. Yes, there's Man City at home in game week 1. But you look at the rest of the fixtures, those are all fixtures I think Chelsea could score well in. It's Wolves away, Crystal Palace at home, Bournemouth away, West Ham away, and it goes on. So I do think like starting off with Nkunku could be one of the plays to go for, and who knows, if he pops off, he could be a bit of a bandwagon as well, right? So if you have him already, that obviously saves you a transfer. But in general, I think Chelsea as an attacking outlet, as we saw towards the end of last season where they were picking up wins week after week, I think consecutively 6 to 7 weeks, which kind of shot us up the table towards the end of last season. If only you could have done it slightly earlier, but that's just the Chelsea fan in me speaking. But if not, I think you look at the fixtures that Chelsea have, I do think they will start the season strong. You know, obviously, Man City at home is not the easiest fixture, but again, the fixtures after that are really good. So I do like the look of Nkunku and the amount of cost saving that he gives us instead of going for someone like Cole Palmer. So do consider Nkunku. Let's take a look at the next player. So the next player I want to talk about is João Pedro, coming in at 5.5 million. His ownership is currently 21.6%, so pretty high already. I do imagine it will continue to rise. But what I like about João Pedro is that he is a 5.5 million penalty taker. Now he is first choice for Brighton for penalties. Now the only other player that used to be taking loads of penalties as well is Pascal Gross. He has obviously moved on and is no longer at Brighton anymore. So it does seem like João Pedro will continue to be the first choice penalty taker. And of course, the only issue with him last season was that we never knew when he was going to get consistent game time because he was being consistently rotated by Roberto De Zerbi. That is also going to change this season because De Zerbi has obviously left. There's a new manager in charge. I do expect that João Pedro will be the out-and-out number 9 for Brighton, and we know they are a team that can attack. They have great players, and you know, loads of players that did really well for them in the previous season are coming back from injury as well. We have Mitoma, we have Solly March. We remember the days when Brighton were doing so well attackingly. And I think you roll back the times, I do imagine that João Pedro going into this season could be a very, very good asset to have. And of course, only at 5.5 million, this was a similar price point to Cole Palmer last season. And he was on penalties as well. So if João Pedro is nailed for 90 minutes every single game week, I do imagine he will be a great enabler up front. He is actually, I feel, the key to getting Haaland in your team, as well as going for loads of other expensive or I guess mid-premium assets around the 10 million to 9 million range of midfielders that you want to go for. If you really want to have Haaland in your team and fit all these players, I do think like João Pedro could be the key enabler in your team. So loads of good fixtures for him. If you look at the fixture taker there, it's Everton away, Manchester United at home is by no means a difficult fixture. Brighton are a team that definitely can get a number of goals against Manchester United. Arsenal away, obviously a very difficult fixture there, but after that is Ipswich at home and Nottingham Forest at home. So I do think like João Pedro could be a great asset to have to start the season off. So do let me know in the comments down below if you have João Pedro in your team. Let's take a look at the next player. So next up, I actually have the 3 Chelsea goalkeepers here in Petrovic, Sanchez and Kepa, all at 4.5 million. So the reason why I've kind of listed all of them here together is because currently there's no confirmation as to who is going to be the first choice keeper. I've put Sanchez up front in the middle here because it does seem like he is leading the race. And if that's the case, which I do think we will get more information on this during pre-season, 4.5 million could be an absolute steal to get entry into the Chelsea defense. Now, Chelsea were not super strong defensively, but again, a new coach coming in, loads of things could change, and Chelsea definitely have the personnel. I mean, the squad is good. They have the personnel to be a good defensive side, and if Enzo Maresca is able to kind of fit the team and the squad and choose the right players correctly, which I think possibly Pochettino may have gotten that wrong at times last season, I think Chelsea could be a much more improved defensive side going into this season. And again, if you told me at the start of this season that I could get a 4.5 million goalkeeper for Chelsea when other keepers from other teams like maybe Everton, Pickford is at 5 million, loads of Aston Villa's Martinez is also at 5 million. If I could get a Chelsea keeper at 4.5 million, it almost seems as if it's a no-brainer for me. So I'll be waiting to see who is the first choice keeper for Chelsea, and I'll likely go for him as well. So if that is Sanchez, then I'll probably go for him. So let me know what are your thoughts in the comments down below. Let's take a look at the next player. So the danger about making these kind of videos is that there will always be 1 or 2 players which may be a bit controversial. So this is the player for this video, and it's Trent Alexander-Arnold at 7 million. Now I know some people are not very hot on Trent, but for myself, I do think like he is someone that could make a bit of a mockery of the 7 million price tag. Now, in terms of numbers last season, at least defensive numbers, yes, Liverpool were really poor defensively. They let in a lot of cheap goals last season. That obviously led to Trent scoring lesser points, and being at the price point that he was at last season, which is 8 million, that was slightly too expensive, and the attacking threat from Trent last season was kind of dwindling down a little bit. But again, Jurgen Klopp has left. Things are going to change at Liverpool. Arne Slot has come in. We could see Trent still playing in that inverted fullback role, and if that does happen, I think that is the key to unlocking a lot of the FPL returns for him. Liverpool, again, are one of those sides where the personnel are there for them to do well defensively. If Van Dijk doesn't leave, which obviously there's some rumors he's reconsidering, Trent as well, obviously the player that we're talking about right now, he could go to Real Madrid. There are rumors that the player is interested, etc. We'll keep a lookout for that. But in general, if all the players stay, Van Dijk, Trent and Robertson are all players that were from such a strong defense that Liverpool was at a couple of seasons ago. And then you add someone like maybe Konate who's coming in to fill in that second centre-back role. If that is the back line going into this season, and if Arne Slot is able to kind of drill that defense a little bit more, I do think like clean sheets could be in store for Liverpool. And then obviously when we talk about the attacking threat for Trent, that is something that is usually never in doubt. He's on set pieces. From open play, he also has that knack for kind of chipping balls through to the attack for maybe Darwin Núñez. We saw that so much last season. Salah as well, a very good outlet for Trent. So I think in general, when you look at Trent's numbers as well, he got 3 goals and 5 assists last season. That actually for me feels a bit of an underperformance last season. We know he's capable of much more. So if he does stay, and if they do keep the clean sheets and he does get attacking returns, I really do think like Trent is someone who could make that 7 million price tag look a bit of too cheap, right? So I do think like Trent is someone that people should strongly consider. I think in general, you are usually never really on the fence about this. I think from what I've seen people who are really hot on Trent, Either that or you're just really on the other end and you don't really think you want to go for Trent, because he's at 7 million, and again, the bonus point system kind of does not favor defenses who concede goals. So there is that off chance that obviously if Liverpool continue to concede goals here and there, that is actually more detrimental for someone like Trent, who gets majority of his points from that double-digit haul where he kind of gets clean sheets plus attacking returns and then bonus as well. So he really probably will have to keep a clean sheet to guarantee good number of bonus points across the whole of the coming season, because it's no longer like last season where it's kind of pretty much guaranteed for a defender if they get an attacking return. So there we go with Trent. Things to consider. For what it's worth, he is currently still in my team, and I think he could be a player that could be a pretty good differential, because 18.3% is not very, very high. I think people we should see this increase maybe to about 20%, but if we could keep a bit hush on this and Trent does explode, I do think like Trent is one of those assets that could kind of pit us ahead of our mini league rivals who don't go for Trent. So that's what I think about him. Let's take a look at the next player. So next up, we have Gvardiol from Manchester City. So finally, a Man City player to talk about. He is priced at 6 million and his ownership is currently 30.2%. So the thing with him being priced at 6 million, when it just came out, it did seem as if that was quite a big raise, but especially when you look at the player prices of the other defenders, where Ruben Dias is at 5.5, Ake, Akanji, etc., they're all lower than 6 million. So Gvardiol is actually the most expensive Manchester City defender. But the question is, that's among Man City players. When I take this 6 million price point and I look elsewhere at other teams, Trippier is also at 6 million. That's another story, but him being at 6 million is a similar price point to Gvardiol. And then at 6.5, there's someone like Ben White as well. Those are pretty much the competitors that we're looking at in this price range. And then obviously there's Trent at 7.0 million. So the thing I would say about Gvardiol to maybe someone like Trippier is that I don't think we would trust the Newcastle defense as much as I would trust the Man City defense, because in general, Man City's defense is still an elite defense. They kept 13 clean sheets last season, second to Arsenal's 18. So with Gvardiol, as compared to someone like Trippier, I think clean sheets are more likely for Gvardiol. That's kind of a given. And then when you take a look at attacking threat, I don't think Gvardiol is someone that pales too much in comparison to Trippier. If Gvardiol is able to keep up his current playing position as well as the style that he's tasked to play with by Pep Guardiola. If you take a look at the heat map here, he is so involved in the attack. It's not usual you see such a huge heat map of a defender in an attacking half. I mean, even for Mykolenko, which we spoke about in the as the first player of this video, his heat map was not that big in the attacking half, but Gvardiol is just someone who is just tasked to venture forward as much as he can. And if you take a look at the shots, he's taken 32 shots in 28 appearances, and at least close to half of them are on target. So actually he is pretty clinical. And if we're kind of thinking about whether he was overperforming last season, I don't actually think so, and the numbers don't really think so as well. He got an expected assist of 2.09, so he also got an actual 2 assists in the game last season. So basically, there's not much of an over or under performance there. And in terms of goals as well, he got 3.14 expected goals, and he also scored 4 goals. So again, it's not too far off. In general, what I would say is that if he's able to keep this performance into next season, not the form, but at least the way and the playing style that he is currently adopting, or at least we saw him adopting towards the end of last season, if he carries that forward, I think he's a player that could do very, very well. And at 6 million, again, someone that could make a mockery of that 6 million price tag, Joško Gvardiol. So fixtures-wise, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because Man City's fixtures are not the best. Right, there's Chelsea away. In the first 5 game weeks, they have Chelsea away in game week 1, and then there's also Arsenal in game week 5. Right, so not great, those 2 fixtures, but in the middle, that's where you see, I think, Man City are going to get loads of points there. Ipswich at home, one of the promoted sides from last season, but they're playing at home as well. Well, those are games we could see Man City win 4-0, 5-0, etc. So that's the Ipswich game. There's West Ham away as well. West Ham not very strong defensively. And then Brentford at home is also a plump fixture for Man City. So in general, I think the fixtures for the first few game weeks are pretty alright, right, from an overall perspective. And for someone like Vardiol at 6 million, I think he's pretty much a set and forget if you have him in your team. The only concern I would say here, just to provide a different perspective, is that I do think there could be some form of rotation. I mean, no one really knows when there's Pep Roulette here. But there is talk of some potential rotation with Ake now back and fully fit. Nobody really knows if Vardiol is as nailed as he was last season. I do imagine, from my own gut feel as well, I think he will keep that place and maybe Ake slots in somewhere else. But if not, I think if he is someone that we see starting consistent number of preseason games, I do think Vardiol is someone to go for. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. And let's take a look at the last player for this video. So the final player I have on this list is Joachim Andersen, coming in at 4.5 million. Now, we did see towards the end of last season that Crystal Palace really showed some good form, both defensively and attackingly. And someone like Joachim Andersen, he does have that passing range as well, because he's picked up 3 assists as well. Most of it has come from him launching balls from the back straight through to the attacker. Maybe someone like Mateta, who's perfectly capable of picking up a ball from the center back and then just shooting up front. So I do think like Joachim Andersen is a player that has a decent attacking threat despite him playing as a center back. And when I compare him to someone like a Marc Guéhi, I do think Andersen is definitely much more attacking, has more outlets for attacking returns. And as a defensive outlet, again I say Crystal Palace is a pretty decent defense. Since Glasner has come in, they kept majority of their clean sheets. Across the whole season, they kept 10 clean sheets, but under Glasner, that record is slightly better. And in general, again, when you take a look at the price point that we have here at 4.5 million, Munoz is 5 million, so 0.5 million more expensive. But is Munoz that much better than Joachim Andersen that we should be going for him? I think in an ideal situation where we don't have budget constraints, I think definitely Munoz is the attacker, is the defender with a better attacking threat. And then obviously you also get defensive coverage from him because he's also classed as a defender. But what I would say is, because obviously budget is an issue, I don't think that downgrading from Munoz, who's at 5 million, to someone like Joachim Andersen at 4.5 is you losing out on that much. I think there's perfectly good reason that Andersen could outscore Munoz. I mean, if you take a look at last season, Joachim Andersen is the highest scoring defender for Crystal Palace, right? Because he just does have that knack of doing very well, when it's in situations with set pieces or even just launching balls from the back, as I've mentioned just now. So when I take a look at the kind of player prices overall, I just think that Joachim Andersen should actually be priced slightly more expensive at 5 million. That's why I think at 4.5 million, I feel he's a bit of a steal into that Crystal Palace defense. He's one of those players that is very, very commanding for Crystal Palace as well. So I do like him just as an asset to have. Not that I need to play him every single game week. We see that he has fixtures like Chelsea away in game week 3 and Manchester United at home in game week 5. Those are by no means fixtures where I think a clean sheet is guaranteed for Crystal Palace, but you could very well just rotate a Crystal Palace defender with teams like Aston Villa or teams like Newcastle. I will cover more rotation pairs in later videos, but at 4.5 million, he's a player you can have on the bench and start him when he has good fixtures. So I do like Joachim Andersen. I do think he's slightly underpriced as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Is he in your team? But if not, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful. I've gone through again all the player prices, and these are the players I've picked out. But if I've missed out any, please do let me know in the comments below if there are any more hidden gems that we should be going for. But if not, do check out Fantasy Football Hub for the 50% off discount with the link in the description. It's the first link and you can go check out all the useful tools that they have. But if not, I'll catch you guys in more Game Week 1 content for the FPL 24-25 season that's coming very, very soon. Bye bye.